Hello to everyone for our November tea time. We hope you have your cup of tea ready to embark on today's journey. Welcome to our short trip to Spain. I am very delighted to welcome Alfred Sesma today as my guest. Hello, Alfred.
Hello.
And Alfred is responsible for sales and acquisitions at Pack Màgic in Barcelona. So he is the expert about everything in Catalonia, so you know very well what's happening in your region, but you also did some research for us for today for what's going on in the whole country of Spain. So we'll see how much we can touch today. We try the best that we can, but don't be mad if we miss something. Obviously, no one can know everything about Spain. So let's start with the traditional first question. Alfred, what are you drinking and what does your cup look like?
My cap is this one. It's from Animac, an animation film festival from Lleida that I organized it for 11 years. And in many ways, it was the beginning of everything. It was my first time that I work with animation and film for kids and everything. So this is from the year 2003.
Wow.
Yeah, I was there long ago.
And what are you drinking? Tea or coffee?
To be honest, water. Ooh. Because I don't drink tea and I have drink enough coffee today, so it was time for water. I'm sorry.
So you're full of coffee energy for our talk now.
Yeah, I have enough. Don't worry about that.
Perfect. Okay, then let's start with the first content question, not the drinking question. How would you describe the atmosphere for children's or young audience content or young audience activities in general in Spain, in your country?
In Spain, it's hard to say that there is a context for film for kids. There is no tradition about it, very few, and only exist about maybe animation and especially TV series, but not feature films. And live action films are quite strange. It happens from time to time, but there is not a structure or a tradition of doing film for kids in Spain, sadly. But that's a fact.
Okay, so you kind of already answered the question about the production landscape. So what kind of productions are there? Is it short films or only animation? You already said live action is not really happening.
Of course, about short films, there is a huge production, quite interesting at many levels, but it moves mainly around festivals and everything, but doesn't go to the market or to screens or whatever. And just in few VOD platforms, you can watch short films or special events and everything. But yes, of course, there are a lot of short films of animation, especially last years. It's a production that has grown a lot last time. Not so much film for kids. A lot of films with kids, that it's not the same that film for kids. And about feature films, there are several feature animation films in productions, and every year I release 2 or 3, depends of the year, not so much. This year, maybe 3 movies.
Okay. And can you say something about the funding situation? Are there any funding schemes at the national or regional level that somehow target the young audience, or is that not there at all?
And for TV series and TV production, there is, because there are several public broadcasters that has channels for kids, and they produce TV series for them. About feature films, there is not a specific grant address for film for kids. To get the grant, you need to have some cultural values, and you have to follow some rules, and at least some of them. And one is, okay, if the movie is for kids, you have some extra points, but it's not that exists a real grant from Film for Kids. And only in Catalonia, as far as I know, maybe I'm wrong with that, exists a special grant for animation films, but not for kids, animation in general. So that's what we have.
Okay. So no funding scheme, especially for young audience content, but extra points when you apply with the project.
It's not exactly extra points. If you want to get the grant, you have to be considered like a cultural interest production, and there are different reasons to be considered as cultural interest. One of these is a movie for kids.
Okay.
But it's not needed to get extra points. You need to have some of these points. This is about the Spanish grants. And about Catalonia, nothing special about kids, only this grant for animation.
Okay. Well, but at least at some point in the regulations of the fund, the young audience is mentioned. That's already
yes, exactly. I'm not an expert about production, so maybe I lose something. And in Spain, culture is transferred to every region. So we are 70 different regions, and maybe in some region they have something specific for kids, but I don't know everything. But I have the feeling that not so much in general.
Yeah, I share your feeling. And like we said in the beginning, you got some information about Spain, you know best about Catalonia. So if there's anyone out there living in another part of Spain who knows more, contact us. We're very keen on getting to know more information. We're always happy to listen to you guys. So you already said you're not the expert on production. You're coming from the distribution point of view. So let's make that our next question. So what does distribution and sales for young audience content look like in your country?
We started to distribute. Our company, started 50 years ago, so quite long ago. With distribution, and after a lot of years we stopped and we restart to distribute 6 years ago. And at that moment when we started, there were not a specific distribution company for film for kids, and we were not exactly the first, because at the first time appears a couple of companies. It was 2014 more or less. So now in Spain, there are 2 distribution companies of film for kids, Rita and Luca and Pack Màgic. Both are from Barcelona. And we distribute mainly this kind of independent European movies. Then, of course, we have the American majors and other distribution companies that from time to time also release film for kids. But as companies that distribute only film for kids, there are only 2 right now in Spain.
I mean, 2, that's already, it's weird that they're both in Barcelona, but it's already good that you do have distribution companies that specialize in kids content. So that's cool. So where do you distribute your content to? Are there cinemas especially dedicated to young audience, or parts of the cinema, or is it more an educational distribution? And what kind of content do Spanish children watch?
We distribute to theatrical, of course. We're releasing commercial cinemas. I guess that more or less, like as it's everywhere, most of the commercial cinemas are controlled by big chains that are looking for strictly commercial content, and it's quite difficult to find a slot where to put our movies. So we don't used to do big releases in Spain with our movie. But in other hand, what exists in Catalonia, and especially and also in Spain, it's quite a strong network of non-theatrical venues. So from city councils with public cinemas to museums, cultural centers, film societies, there is a strong tradition of film societies. And at last, this is the place for our movies. And of course, then we try to sell to televisions and whatever. Also, we still do DVD editions of our movies, and mainly for libraries, public libraries. And this is the market that we have. It's not so big, but in our case, it's strong and it's growing. I think that one of the good consequences of COVID is that many people and many institutions have realized the importance of the cinema as a place for social cinema experience. And now we feel a growing interest to reopen cinemas or to program cinema games in a place, not in a screen. But everything is restarting again, and let's see how it ends. And that's what we do.
And that's great that the cinema as a social place is on the agenda again. That's also something that is very important to us at Kids Regio. You spoke about the places that you put the films or the short content into, but what kind of content is it? You already said in the beginning that live action is not really so popular in Spain.
If it's in a Spanish production, live action works. Mm-hmm. If it's a French production, it's quite complicated to distribute live action. Because I guess that families, when they go to the cinema to watch a movie together, they are thinking and waiting to watch animation. And because there is no tradition, they maybe can't understand that also there are also live action movies for kids. They go for animation. So for live action movies, it's quite complicated to distribute. And our catalog is mainly European productions and this sort of art house movies for kids. And our distribution company pays special attention to some values and some issues from the movie that we consider that they are important to take in consideration. So things like the feminist perspective or the way that conflicts are solved and everything. In fact, our company slogan, it's a slow cinema, something like that. Quiet and slow cinema. Because we think that we know that this cinema exists and is interesting for kids. So we are the resource that we have to share it with the Spanish audience, not all of Spain.
Sure. You already said that or that the distribution is also happening towards TV stations. Mm-hmm. What do you have a special channel that is dedicated to the young audience, or is it just part of the channel's activities only in the morning, or?
Spanish public television, Radio Televisión Española, has a channel for animation, mainly it's Clan, where they broadcast feature films. Mainly they are looking for quite commercial content. It's not easy to sell these independent productions to them. And also Catalan television, public television, has a specific channel for film for kids and TV series. So this is about public broadcasters. Then there are, of course, we have Disney and Netflix and whatever. So but this is another league. And then at BOD, we have the same than everywhere, but in Spain we have a very nice VOD platform, Filmin, with a special channel for filming kids that it's specially addressed for film for kids. So this is more or less what we have, not so much options. And not all of them are looking for the European productions, to be honest.
Well, so you already mentioned, you already addressed my next question, which was about the online office and online platforms. You already mentioned Filmin with a kids sub part of the platform. Is there more? Are there any other offers as well?
We have Netflix, Amazon, Facebook, whatever. But for this content, almost only Filmin. And then exist other resources that are not exactly VOD platform for public audience. For example, in our company, we have Pack Màgic as a scholars. It's a VOD platform specially addressed to schools with a flat fee for all the year to to offer the opportunity to schools to screen movies in classes. And maybe there are other resources like this, but addressed to a general audience, filming is almost the only one. And there are some attempts to start some others, but we are still waiting how it ends. And that's it, yes.
And the one that you have at Pack Màgic that is addressed to schools, did you start that with, or because of the pandemic, or was that already happening before?
It was something that we had in mind. And of course, COVID accelerated the process. As I guess that it has happened to many of us that, okay, now it's the moment. But of course, a distribution company like us who distribute this kind of content, if the channel doesn't exist, we need to build the channel. And in Spain, sadly, there is a lack of culture about how rights work and everything. So there is a huge, it was bigger, but huge level of piracy and schools are not used to, they don't know that they have to pay to go to screen a movie in the class. No? Where it's a sort of almost pedagogical project. We have built this to explain how they have to manage audiovisual contents of the school, and then to offer quite affordable and easy way to have access to movies, and very nice movies.
Wow, I have not heard that before, that they actually use illegal methods to watch movies in schools. This is, even though that was the case before Netflix and everyone came around for the personal use. I have never heard that from German schools, because everything is so well regulated in Germany that schools, I think, would never get
Spain is different. Spain is different. And for teachers, for many years, it was extremely easy to take a DVD and put it in the class. And that's all. So there are some routines that we need to change, but mainly they don't know that this is illegal. They think that it's okay and it's normal.
Well, even better that you're now offering a possibility to do that in the legal way and learn something about it and make it pedagogical. That's good. But going over to our next topic that is connected to your cup. What kind of festivals are there in Spain and Catalonia? Anything dedicated especially or only to young audiences, or bigger festivals with young audience sections? How's that working in Spain?
Right now, for Film for Kids, there is a festival in Barcelona, Madrid. That is El Meu Primer Festival. That it's more or less the same project that in France, Mon Primer Festival, but in Spain. And there is another festival in Valencia for Film for Kids, and more or less that's all. Then there are other little projects, but mainly Film for Kids for schools and the local audience without the ambition to do something bigger. But these are not markets, and there are in some way very local festival for the audience. Then there is an interesting project that has started also with COVID and everything, that 4 different festivals, Sevilla, Valladolid, let me remember, Huelva and Malaga, have started a project that they name Ventana Cinéfila, that they share energies, these 4 festivals, to share Film for Kids to their schools. But it's a starting, let's see how it ends. And right now only Regio Festival still has a competitive category for Film for Kids specifically, and fan storyboards. And it has a long history. In fact, Regio Festival is a youth film festival. And maybe I forget something. And then there are animation film festivals, but not strictly for kids. There is the biggest market maybe now in Spain about animation. It's Ware Festival in Segovia, and then there is also Animac in Lleida. That it's an animation festival, but it's more like this Of course, they have film for kids, but it move more to this art, animation, and experimental. So this is the situation.
Okay. So for everyone who had difficulties following all those Spanish-speaking names that Alfred just mentioned, we put everything in the info box under the video, all the names of the festivals and everything else that we talked about and the links, so that you can have a look at that if you're not a Spanish native speaker.
Sorry, I am.
No problem. This is why we have you as an expert to also pronounce the names correctly that we can't pronounce. And so you already said festivals mostly really dedicated to the audience and doing audience work, rather regional and not really with an industry part of the festival. That's happening in the animation world, not dedicated to young audience content. That's the
Yes,
right?
only this festival in Segovia, where festival has this very professional market approach, but it's for animation, and mainly it's about TV series and video games also, and all this. But for film for kids, there is not a market, or from time to time there is some special event. Long ago, also Cartoon organized something in Barcelona and Catalonia and in other places. But it was.
And I'm closely connected usually also to industry programs of festivals, but sometimes also apart from festivals are development or training programs. Is there anything happening in that direction in Spain? I mean, dedicated.
Again, for kids, no. For kids, no. Mm-hmm. There is a very nice project that it's organized by the same people that were festival, that it's named Bridging the Gap, that it's like a lab to develop animation content. So yes, from time to time, there are projects for kids, but it's not the aim of the lab
program.
The program.
Okay. Yeah, I see the overall trend in Spain goes to nothing directly for young audience. But if you have a project, you can come to us, but probably it's animation if you have a project.
That's the general role, for sure.
That's a general trend. Okay, so then maybe over to a topic that usually is totally young audience dedicated, and that is film education. Because that usually is not directed at old people or adult people, but more really to the kids. So what's happening in that direction in Spain? Anything worth especially mentioning for film education activities?
Again, from the institutional point of view, from the state or from regions, there is almost nothing. Only a project that it's done related with Coordinadora de Cortometrajes, the Spanish short films coordinator, something like that. That it's a platform to have access to Spanish short films to use in the schools. It's Aula Film or something like that. And you can read here later. And in Catalonia also the Catalan Filmothèque has a special program for schools. Apart of this, the rest are private or independent projects. Mainly also in Catalonia, there is a couple. And of course, we are there with more than 50 years working with a project that we named Construir Miradas. And then there is another project that is named Cinema en Curs, and another one that is Aula Film, that are more or less working for, not more or less, they are working for films and schools and education, but they are private projects. We are private projects. So there is not a special politic or line at institutional level about that. From time to time, there are like shy attempts to do something, and it seems, but still not. We are waiting for it.
Okay, so a lot of things should will maybe happen in Spain, but at the moment it's more on a local, regional level, and specific people that are invested in those kinds of offers and do their personal, give themselves as a person into the project. And
from an optimistic point of view, it's a nice situation because we only can grow and we have a lot of opportunities. So, and I don't know, maybe things are changing, and yes, we start to feel that maybe they are starting to understand the importance of a kids audience for cinemas. Also, because before you asked me about how we release movies, and you asked me if there are any special cinemas for kids. There are not cinemas for kids. There are some cinemas that take care of this audience, but mainly it's about morning screenings at weekend or some special moments of the day. So, but this is growing. We feel that there are more and more cinemas that, okay, we need to start to do these movies for kids. Let's see how it ends all this post-trauma after COVID and how everything fits at like the end.
I mean, that sounds like positive view into the future. I mean, we have to start somewhere. So, and I'm really sorry, I have one last question, and usually it gets a negative answer, even though we looked so very positively into the future at the moment. But my last question always is about research. Is there any research done in your country? I know it's hard when you come from an industry perspective to have an overview about research, but can you say anything about that?
About film for kids specifically, again, I don't know, really. I guess that at some university or some places they are thinking about that. What is interesting, maybe there are, I know, it comes to my mind a couple of projects that, for example, in Catalonia, we have the kids cluster. It's a cluster of companies that work with kids product, not only movies, also toys, also whatever. And it started some years ago, and it's quite interesting place. And they are doing research, and they are doing some kind of investigation about trends, about technology, whatever. And in Valencia, where exists a long tradition of toy factories, there is a place that named Anju, if I remember correctly, that it's like a technological research center for kids product. And also there they do trends research, and they do this kind of product investigation that many times are related to movies in some way, or are related to audiovisual, or are related to, kids' minds or world or whatever. So these two places are interesting places as a starting point to start to search what is going on at this research level. But for sure there are more, and I don't know where.
Okay, so something that we can investigate further in the future when we want to know more about research. Already 2 good points to start investigating. That's good. So yeah, now Alfred, we need a new positive last sentence for our session today.
Let me think. I think that kids, maybe it will sound a little silly, but we have new kids every year, and you know perfectly that, and so, and they don't born with all the cultural heritage and routines. This is something that we teach them. If we offer them, their families and kids, opportunity to go to cinema, we will recover this audience that nowadays it's almost lost, or it's surviving barely. And I feel that it starts to be this feeling that we need to do something about it. For example, in Catalonia, it's going to start a project with the biggest cultural organization, private organization, Unión Cultural. We are going to start a project to offer the opportunity to many venues that they don't do cinema, but they have a screen and a projector to start to do film for kids, and address especially to small and middle cities, also little villages that wants to do that, and they don't have the commercial structure and everything. And we are quite optimistic with this project, and the feedback at the very beginning, it's quite interesting. So who knows, maybe next year we have 20 or 30 more screens in Catalonia to screen movies. And this is something that these 6 years that we have been working on it, we have felt that it, more or less the interest is growing, and that people is trying to offer these movies and this content.
That sounds good. That's a very, very good those are very good last words, very positive outcome. So we have to speak in the future.
Of course, we are not waiting too much from, okay, we are waiting a lot from the state and from institutions, but we realize that, okay, we have to work in a way, and this is the direction. We wait from them, but we can't stand without doing nothing meanwhile. So let's see what happens.
That's good. And maybe at some point they will also jump on the ship and sail with us towards a bright children's film and young audience culture future.
They are welcome.
They're very welcome. If you listen to this, come to us, work with us.
Let's work together. We have many things to do.
Perfect. Well, those were my questions. Thank you so much, Alfred, for being.
Thank you to you.
For our,
it's very flattering and a little strange to hear that you name me an expert, because I have never seen myself as this. Okay, I do my work and I know about it, but okay, so for everybody, I'm not the expert in the Spain. There are more for sure.
Yeah, but like we said, if anyone has anything to add, please contact us. We know that we don't know everything, but we try to get an overview. This was our overview about Spain. Thank you so much again for doing this together with me, and I hope I see you soon somewhere in real life again, Alfred. That would be nice. But for now, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you all for listening in to Alfred and me talking about Spain. We hope you enjoyed our discussion. And if you want to learn more about other European countries, make sure to listen to our past tea times, all available here on our YouTube channel in our Tea Time playlist.